learn a little bit more about you, our audience. We'd like to know to make sure that we actually cover grounds that is relevant to you. So we'd like to know where you stand in your entrepreneurial journey. Are you at the very beginning with not much more than an idea, or are you already serial entrepreneurs who we could learn from? So I'd like you to follow our poll and answer while we start introducing our guests. Okay, good. So now, I'd like to start with the two ladies sitting here with me on stage at the University of Geneva. We have Carmen Serrano and Silvia Marquez. They're both experienced professionals, and now they have started Munich, a hair care brand. They won the first place in the retail and consumer services vertical of the venture competition this year. Now we are moving to the virtual stage, and I'd like to continue with Lulia Kassem. She is the founder of RIA, a novel medical diagnostics device. RIA is already her second venture, with which she won the Audience Award of the venture competition also in 2020. Next, I would like to introduce Fajer Mushtaq. Her PhD, could you maybe wave, Fajer, and say something so you appear on screen?
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Fajer. Her PhD research at ETH Zurich led her to found Oxal, a company that treats wastewater. She has won the grand prize at venture, so 150,000 Swiss francs, also in 2020. Last but definitely not least, we have Samantha Anderson. Samantha, could you please wave and say something?
Hello.
Hello. She's the founder of Depoly, and she holds a PhD at EPFL, where she developed a method to recycle PET. She is the predecessor of Fajer because she won the grand prize at Venture in 2019. Of course, they can all explain much better what they do than I ever could. So with this, I would invite our five guests to actually explain a little bit more what they do in their daily work and what their companies are about. Samantha, could you start?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, I'm Sam. And Depoly is a chemical recycling company. So what we do is we break down post-consumer PET plastic waste. And this can be dirty PET plastic, PET in the presence of other plastics like PVC, or even fabrics, fibers, clothing. Basically, if it has PET plastic or polyester in it, it can be broken down. And the two main chemicals that we get out are the monomers, or the main building blocks of PET plastic, and we sell these back to industry. And this allows industry to make, for example, virgin quality PET plastic without needing to get the same chemicals from the oil industry, which is where they're currently sourced.
Thanks, Samantha. Fajer, would you like to continue?
Of course. Good evening, everyone. My name is Fajer, and as already described, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Oxal. We are a clean tech company that specializes in providing an advanced wastewater treatment, where we target some of the most persistent, mobile, and toxic chemicals from the wastewater effluents of chemical, biotech, food and beverage companies, and even hospitals, households, and municipal wastewater treatment plants. And we do this by using clean energy sources, such as sunlight or mechanical noise, and while giving the customers a cost-effective advantage and being sustainable.
Thank you. Lulia, you're next.
Hi, Leah. Good evening, everyone. My startup, REA, is a medtech company. We developed the first technology for non-invasive diagnostics of preterm birth. The SmartPad has an embedded sensor where vaginal secretions of pregnant women are collected and analyzed for specific proteins that are indicative of a risk of preterm birth. And through our phone app, pregnant women could directly see the results of their risk for preterm birth and understand their risk.
Thanks. So, to our stage here. Could you also please explain what Nunik do?
Well, our mission is to lead the evolution of self-care. We want to give consumers the option to make educated choices in terms of ingredients, packaging, sustainability, and also of rituals. And if you want, Carmen, you can give a bit more detail.
Just adding that is a beauty brand that is plastic-free, is personalized, and offer natural products based on a circular economy model. And we want to merge beauty excellency with exemplary responsibility, having no compromise in terms of ethics and eco-design.
Thank you so much. So you see, we have a really exciting mix of industries of 5 amazing ladies. And now let's learn a bit more on what they do every day. Let's get a little bit into the good, the bad, and the ugly. So Samantha, maybe let's start with you, because at least from what we know, you have been at it for the longest. What's your favorite and least favorite thing you do or about working in a startup so far?
I think my most favorite would be that every day is different. You don't have the same 2 days in a row. And so I can go from a day where you're talking to companies about potential investments, to a day where the team is in the lab and we're trying to figure out either Gen 2 or looking at another plastic, to days where it's just kind of the more mundane following up on emails that maybe had got missed through the busy schedules and things like this. So I'm sometimes not the fastest at responding through email, so I think that's my my bad side for that.
Thanks. Who would like to add? Do you feel the same?
I totally agree with Samantha. Working in a startup really has this steep learning curve. Very quickly you acquire a lot of different skills and knowledge, and every day you learn new things by actually doing them, and it's never boring. And maybe the least thing would be the very long working hours that accompanies it, but then it's a part of it.
Well, for me, I really enjoy that you are able to build something from scratch, and you can control and be mindful in terms of the production and the materials that you're using. So that's the part that I really enjoy. And maybe the part that I least enjoy is that we would like to go faster than what we actually go. So that's maybe the drawback, yeah.
So if things don't really go how you planned it, or if things get difficult, what do you do to keep motivated? Fajer, can we hear from you?
Of course. Well, at Auxal, the thing that really keeps us motivated every single day is when we learn more and more about how big the wastewater contamination crisis is and how it affects various ecosystems, aquatic ecosystems, human health, and also the fate of the planet due to high CO2 emissions coming from the way the water is currently treated. So the more we learn about the scope of the problem, the more motivated we are to keep fighting and to keep pushing. And also the fact that we have been getting really positive feedback from many of our customers through our proof of concept studies with them and a pilot study. So that has been really motivating us. And yeah, I think that's what you want to sort of learn and work on at the early stage. And the fact that we are right now really and truly in a clean energy driven and dominated market where public is pressurizing governments for better action for protecting the health of our ecosystems and our planet. And that is fueling more legislative actions as well on industries, effluents, and municipal effluents. So that all of these factors combined really help us present with this amazing opportunity where we know that the time for us to enter the market is right now. There is considerable attention and interest from the industry as well as from consumers. And the fact that time is really running out on protecting our precious water bodies and protect the health of our environment. So all of these factors combined motivate us. There is no single one. Each day it's a different one that pushes us.
Thank you. So let's learn a little bit more on how you started your entrepreneurial journey. I'd like to start with Silvia and Carmen here. You decided you wanted to start a business coming from a business background. So how hard is it for you to get up to speed with the scientific things you need to tackle to actually bring your product to market?
So we both come from bigger corporations, and we had been working for specific departments. And I think one of the reasons why we wanted to become entrepreneurs is because we are both doers, and we wanted to be in the steering wheel to make our ideas really happen and to build something with a purpose where we could have a real personal impact. And it's true that there is a scientific part that we didn't have at the beginning. We're learning every day, but we have an amazing network of advisors and mentors, some of them thanks to the venture competition, and we learn a lot thanks to them, and their advice and their expert support is what helps us make our daily choices and decisions.
So how did you come up with your original idea, as it wasn't something that you explored through research, etc.?
Well, I think it was kind of like a process, because of course we start with a bigger idea, and then we were starting to refine and to pivot sometimes, because we were seeing what was the good things of one idea and the bad things. So it was really, I come from a design engineering and design thinking background, so I really like the iteration and the process of continuously improving an idea. So yeah, it was basically starting with something and then starting to refining with a lot of support, as Silvia mentioned, with a lot of feedback from really incredible mentors and advisors that we have. And this is when we realized that, we found that there could be a solution for a big problem that we are encountering nowadays with the plastics in the planet.
Thanks. So maybe let's look at the other entrepreneurial route that the other three ladies on the panel more or less took, right? You developed something in research and then decided to actually commercialize it. What are the challenges you face here? Is it difficult to transition from a scientific role to being a CEO? Lulia, do you want to answer this one first?
Well, I think that you really learn by doing it. You have to put yourself out there and go talk to people, have the courage and have the faith that you will end up doing it. In the beginning, of course, it's hard. You will do a lot of mistakes. You will fail a lot. But as long as you believe in yourself and you keep on getting up, talking to experts, trying to figure out the different challenges you have for the business, I think anyone could do it. I don't think there is a specific set of skills or a specific way to go.
Thanks. Fajer and Samantha, can you add?
I mean, I totally concur with everything Lulia said. That also has been my personal experience for the past year. I would though add that the one skill that I have learned is this, I would call it the art of, telling and then selling your story. Because as scientists and engineers, we look at a problem from a very technical point of view and we overshare technical details, and the investors and customers, they don't care about that. So I think what I had to learn pretty early on was they don't care about their stuff. They want to know your value propositions. They want to know what benefits you provide to them. And, how are you different from your competition? And you have to be able to tell your story and you have to tell the story of your technology for a very broad audience so that they can all understand that and get as excited as you are about your product. So I think that is a skill that I had to learn this year, which was not taught and can't really be taught. It's like how Lulia said, you do it every day and you learn on the job. And if you keep pushing, you will get better. Practice will make you better at how you sell the vision of your company to other people. And obviously the fact that you have to learn to have a good work-life balance. I'm still learning that. I think I was doing better earlier in the year and after the pandemic and the lockdown and working from home. the lines between working and being home got a bit sort of blurred because you work from home. So that is something also I'm learning, and I'm really striving every day to have a healthy balance, to avoid burnouts or stress or, such complications. So, yeah.
That's definitely something we all struggle with at the moment. Let me get back to the point you made earlier about getting your point across, telling your story. Is this something where, some of the support mechanisms we have in the ecosystem, like pitching contests, participating in a competition, can help you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I have seen a tremendous shift in the way I was selling my idea of the company and pitching it to people at the beginning of venturing into these these startup competitions, for sure. So the storyline, or what attracts people, or how we should sell it, and how should we present even some of the very mundane technical points in a sort of a easy to understand and clear manner. That's something I've learned by participating in various pitch training competitions and different startup courses, and including Venture. Like Venture had a really big role to play there to improve how I pitch, both in the audience award participation as well as in the jury award. So we had so many different pitches and mentors who helped us improve our pitch, and also the feedback we get from the jury. That was extremely important, especially for me to understand what is really important to some of the experts in the field, some of them who actually could be our clients in the future. So what points are most important to them, and you grasp them from the questions they ask you, right? So for me, then I had to prioritize how do you sell this in the next pitching round based on what was the most important questions that people had or found fascinating about the technology. So all of these iterations definitely help.
Thanks. I'd also like to pass the question on to Samantha. What is it that you have had to learn to actually fill the role you're doing now?
Yeah, I think it's everything that the other speakers have mentioned. It's a general learning curve, and it's learning how to switch your mind into that non-academic mode. Because as it's been said, you present your work in one way in a journal, for example, but it's in a very specific data-driven manner. And then when you speak to somebody who's looking to potentially invest in your technology or adapt it into their system, you really have to completely switch that mentality into basically almost like a sales position. And so that was kind of something that without the pitch training and the coaches that we had available to us, at least, I don't know if we would have been able to have that switch as fast as we were able to otherwise.
Thank you. I'd like to take up a question from the audience now. So Rocio actually asks us, what was the biggest wall you encountered on your path so far, and what did you do to move past it? Who goes first?
I think in our case, we started our venture more or less at the same time as the lockdown with COVID. And for us, it was a bit complicated to be able to get in touch with a lot of providers without assisting to industry fairs. So this slowed us a bit at the beginning. But very sudden, we started seeing how all businesses were reinventing themselves, and a challenge at the end appeared to be an opportunity, because the fact that we didn't have to travel to meet all of these people gave us a much broader choice at the end. So,
Thank you. Any more walls? If not, maybe I can suggest a potential one. So another thing, apart from being successful early stage entrepreneurs and venture winners, you obviously have in common is that you're all women. Is being a female entrepreneur sometimes a wall for you? Has it been more challenging in your experience because you're women than if you were male founders? Lulia, do you want to start with that one?
Well, to that, I can say that from my point of view, I have never felt this way. Being a female has never been a burden. However, maybe I can project on our startup and our technology. it's very particular because we are developing a technology that is only for women healthcare. And it's also kind of taboo sometimes to talk about vaginal secretions, especially when you are, let's say, in front of a jury member that is 90% males. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of introduction or a little bit of how to say. I wouldn't find it that easy to talk about this subject to men as it would be to talk about it to women. So maybe I might have a proposal why, for example, in these competitions like Venture or any other competitions, I would love to see more women on the jury members. It would really help sometimes, especially for startups like mine. I think women sometimes could relate more to women healthcare issues more than women.
Let me assure you, so would we. So we're working hard on it, and I know that many of my colleagues in the ecosystem too. But let me pass it on to you. Your product is also more related to the female world, if you want, although men probably also use shampoo, right?
Yeah.
But is this what Ria said, something you can relate to?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's true that every time we've been in front of a jury, and yeah, unfortunately, most of the time the jury is predominantly male. But on the other side, we have never been in a situation that we felt that there was privilege in terms of our gender inequality. So I really hope that it will stay like this in the future, not only for us, but also for other startups driven by female power.
That's good to hear. How is it for you, Fajer and Samantha, who are working in more technical industries?
Well, I would share the same sentiment as Luia and team members. Sorry, I forgot the name. What is it? Munich. Sorry, Munich. I would share the same viewpoints as them as well, that I haven't ever faced any bias or any preference because of my gender. And I think that is really a privilege to say that, because I know I'm aware of in many countries and many other cultures that cannot be just stated so easily and taken for granted. So I think that is a very positive aspect of being a female entrepreneur in Switzerland. But at the same time, what I will say is that wastewater treatment is a heavily male-dominated industry. I did not realize how much it was until I started doing the on-site customer pilots. And when there is no female washroom and you're there for 21 days, 24/7, it can get really tough. So that is something I learned the hard way of how certain segments have been heavily dominated by a specific gender. And that's really not coming from a negative point. It's just, the industry follows the trend of the people who work there, right? So I see a positive aspect there as well, that if I'm there, I'm sure there are many hundreds and thousands of other women also entering a different workforce where women were not there before. So I think that is when we will start seeing more positive change. It is not something we can enforce on everyone in every industry that they have to change. We have to enter the workforce. We have to make it easier for other women to do so. And slowly we will see incremental changes, such as having a female washroom and at such industrial wastewater plants, for example. That would be great.
Agree. But in the situation you're in at the moment, do you have any specific advice on how to navigate this male ecosystem?
Well, I think there are many things that a society and also like women here can do to encourage other women. I think it has to go from the early stages when boys and girls go to school, and then their preference of what subjects they should choose. In many cultures, in many countries, there is a preference or a bias towards certain subjects for boys and for girls. And I think it's high time we move past that and let individuals decide what they want to study and what they want to pursue as a career, as opposed to the societal bias. That would be definitely a first place to start from my point of view. And not to forget that we also, I think, have to have more of these workshops, roundtables like these, on a global scale, where we can show girls and women, actually both genders, that there are more female who are, successful out there, who are female founders, I think representation really matters, and it really matters if you can see more role models out there, which sort of can help you deal with your anxiety or doubts, to question if you can do that too. So I really believe we should celebrate female founders as much as we can going forward. And last, if I can also add, is I think we also have to make it easier for women to feel comfortable taking these leadership roles. We have to make changes. We have to ensure that we promote equal pay for equal work. We have to promote equality at workplace. And we have to make sure that there is a fair and just maternity leave for women. That is a huge problem I have faced when I have discussions with females who want to be, in higher leadership roles and executive roles, and that is something that holds them back. Because they know that they would have a huge CV gap and they will have to take long breaks. I think we need to approach this with more humanity of how maternity leave can be provided. And adding on to that, it should not just be a maternity leave. I think we can all agree that paternity leave can help. This burden can be shared by both genders, and that can make it much easier for women to take up such roles and go back to the workforce faster. So I think there's a lot of work starting from being parents and teaching kids to choose what they want, all the way up to making big changes in the society.
Which go way beyond entrepreneurship, obviously.
Yes.
Right? Samantha, what's your view?
I mean, I have to agree with kind of what everybody said so far. I haven't personally experienced any either prejudice or anything directed towards me in terms of being a female working in a male-dominated industry. I know on the academic side, I have been in large conferences where it's the majority of the people there are men. And even then, I really haven't seen from the science side anybody that said or made comments or anything like this. But I think that, yeah, we really need to, we have to show that everybody can enter these fields that they want to go into, and really promote the ability that women can be entrepreneurs regardless of what country they're in or what their backgrounds are. That it is equal for everybody to try and yeah.
I'd like to follow on with questions from the audience. And they're about fundraising. So first of all, let's maybe ask a general question. So what has your journey been so far to raise funds? And then specifically onto that, was this more difficult because you were female? Samantha, you're on this longest. Would you like to continue?
Yeah, so and I guess this is maybe it also goes to the wall question that was earlier. We had originally we originally planned to do fundraising this fall, but because COVID hit and we're a very lab-dominated startup, we couldn't go into the lab and work, so we actually completely switched to doing fundraising at the start of this year. And I really think that was one of the best things that we did, because everybody says, oh yeah, fundraising takes like 6 months, but actually it's much longer. There's a lot of people you need to talk to, a lot of people who you need to follow up emails with, and this sort of stuff. I've never had, again, issues with it, me being a woman talking to either a male or female who's a VC or a business angel or from a large corporation or whoever. But I would just, if anybody's out there who's going to be doing fundraising, just give yourself a large buffer, because it takes longer than you think.
Thank you. For the other ones, are you already in the process of fundraising? So who would like to add to that?
I can just chip into what Samantha said. Totally agree with her. We were also at the beginning of the year really focused solely on the technological improvement and not so much on the commercial aspects of fundraising. And from March, we were in a lockdown, so we couldn't really access the labs or really work on the experimental part of the project. And that was a silver lining, really a blessing in disguise, as that really forced us to sort of step back and think of how we can improve our business model and financial projections, because these are the topics you need to really understand and cover when you go to raise funds. So without doing the proper homework, without doing in-depth, competitor analysis, financial modeling, and having a very attractive pricing strategy, these questions will come up during fundraising round. So we were happy that we had those 3 months in the lockdown to just focus on that. And so since then, we have been reaching out more to venture capitalists. And since winning the venture competition, we were also very lucky to be contacted by some large investment firms and the VC firms. And so we were better prepared. We had a proper pitch deck with all the necessary points in there. And that is really, really important. And that takes a lot of your time. And you have to do your due diligence. You have to do your homework well before you go to the investors, because they will do their homework based on what you present. And if you fall short, or if you didn't do its job well, they would know, and then, it just falls really negatively on you. So I think you have to do these parts before you start talking to people, because you don't want to create a really bad impression in the market. And that is really important to have, first impression lasts a long time in these cases. And in regards to this, our funding has mostly been non-dilutive so far through grants and competitions. Several EU grants, which are heavily focused on clean tech, have been very grateful for us so far to have those. And at the same time, we are talking to VCs. And if we fall short on our non-dilutive fundraising activities by early next year, that is when we want to approach the VCs for the dilutive funding. So far, we are comfortable, but it's always better to have more. And timing is key. So,
how do you do your homework on investors? How do you find out who is a good fit with you?
I mean, for instance, just look at the portfolio they have. You have to see which companies they worked with before, if they know many people in your segment, in the clean tech segment. And you have to honestly ask them as well, why are you interested in our company? And you have to see what is their motivation, right? So I think it's a mutual sort of acceptance of each other if you guys both fit. And it also depends upon how much money or how much capital are they willing to invest. If they, for example, only invest large sums of money that you don't need so far, then that's also not the right fit. So yeah, for me, I feel there are many different aspects.
Thank you. So Lulia, what's your situation in terms of fundraising?
So for us, it's quite similar to Fajr and Samantha. Also, because of the COVID-19 situation, we had to delay since we could not have access to neither EPFL labs or SHUV because of the lockdown. So our fundraising is being postponed to early next year. So I hope by then I can tell you good news about it. And so far, we have been benefiting from the non-dilutive funds offered by different startup competitions and grants. And so far, things have been going very well. And for all the female founders out there having a business idea or wanting to apply for grants, I would definitely maybe advise them to have a plan on how to apply, in which order, to what competition, and because they are very, very useful in the early stages, and from there a lot of different things could evolve in order to reach the fundraising level.
Thank you. Let's close this round with you two.
Well, I mean, adding a little bit about that, I think you're totally right. Switzerland is a great place for this kind of support, for grants, for competitions. So I would definitely recommend to look for all of these opportunities and apply structure to these prizes and competitions, because they are really useful. Yeah, definitely. We are also the same, planning to start the fundraising next year. But for now, we are relying on bootstrapping and in grants from prize.
So we are in the midst of a pandemic. You are all very courageous to actually work through this and still tackle your entrepreneurial journey. Are you afraid that the COVID-19 pandemic is going to affect your chances of getting successfully funded?
Not really. In our case, part of our value proposition is based in e-commerce, and for sure COVID-19 has accelerated this aspect in Switzerland. So we think it makes even more sense now.
Yeah, and I think also this pandemic has, there is already in the population, especially in Switzerland, I think population is very concerned about the environment and sustainability issues. But I think this pandemic has even increased that, especially even in more in younger generations. So yeah, I mean, bringing a solution to the market that is much more sustainable than what is anything else at the moment. Yeah, I think, yeah, for us is a good moment. It's a good moment. People is demanding it, so yeah, it's a good opportunity.
Thanks. Fasher and Samantha, do you share this feeling that the pandemic has not completely overshadowed the need for cleaner solutions, as you're both also in clean tech industries?
Yeah, I completely agree. I guess the good thing about at least our industries is that wastewater and garbage is always going to be a thing. It's not going to stop because of a pandemic, and unfortunately, these issues need to be dealt with, pandemic or not. So at least for us, that's nice that more people are starting to think about clean tech, pushing sustainability, and this will hopefully help in the future going towards fundraising for us, growing the company, and everything else. So,
Fajer, what's your view?
It's going to get repetitive, but I do completely agree with what Samantha said as well. I mean, yes, COVID in the very beginning, it was a period of anxiety because you don't know how long it lasts and when you'll get the vaccination for that, et cetera, et cetera. So that was a scary period. But like Samantha said, that's a crisis. We agree it's a global crisis. But what is also a global crisis and ever increasing is our waste problem. The water pollution crisis, the waste disposal crisis. These are crises that will last much longer than the pandemic, and they have to be addressed as soon as possible. Otherwise, we'll just see more and more detrimental side effects to the health of our planet. So it's like deciding which crisis is worse. I think many people would agree that a long-lasting effect on the health of a planet and the future generation is worse. So in that sense, it did not really overshadow our progress. It did sort of change the discourse for a while, but we have a few good vaccine candidates now, so I think we can get back to clean tech and protecting the health of environment topics from next year.
So what I hear from you is pandemic or not, let's venture forward. What are the most important steps you expect in the upcoming 12 months? This was a question we received from the audience earlier. Can I give this one to you first?
Yeah, our next big step is to launch our MVP, and hopefully we will be able to have positive outcomes to what we have been assuming so far. And after that, we will start with our funding phase for our first pilot, which will be in Switzerland, to afterwards expand to Germany and the rest of Europe.
Thanks. Who goes next? Fajer?
Sorry,
No,
go
go
ahead. For us, it's we're finishing our pre-commercial plant, which is basically a one step between commercialization and getting out of the lab. So we'll have that running at the end of this year, and we'll run it for a period of time, and then also we're sort of doing back-to-back fundraising rounds. So we're closing ours at the end of this year, and then basically opening the next one to do the commercial fundraising aspect for the commercial plant that we hope to build here.
Thanks. So now, Fajer.
So for us, this year was really good for the technological development. We built our first prototype, with which we did a few customer pilots. And going forward, our aim is to learn from this first prototype that we developed, and implement the lessons we learned from it into a next generation of the prototype, where we would be able to solve some of these mistakes we made in the first prototype. And the idea is to then implement that prototype into one of our customer sites and run a longer time. The last one ran for like a month, so we would like to do this for a longer period of time, followed by definitely much more aggressive fundraising activities next year. And having many of these customer testimonials and customer success stories is key. We want to do a few more of these case studies to really build credibility in this clean tech wastewater treatment market, which is key with so many players out there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Lulia, would you like to close this one?
So for us, basically, it's going to be working towards obtaining the CE mark for the product. And that includes performing tests with patients in the University Hospital of Lausanne. So we're going to be testing our product on pregnant patients at risk of preterm birth. And from there, we're going to go for the fundraising. And of course, we are hoping for the best.
Thank you. So I'd like to change tack a little bit and come to one other thing you have all in common. You all have your roots outside of Switzerland. So this gives you a unique perspective, as you are now all launching businesses here in Switzerland. Some of you have gone to school here, so you know it inside out, but you also now know it outside in. So what does make Switzerland a good place to start a company, and what could Switzerland do better? Samantha, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from Canada, and so I don't know the startup ecosystem very well there because I did my PhD here in Switzerland. But the nice thing about Switzerland is particularly the amount of help for startups that's out there. There's coaches from a wide variety of accelerators and incubators that are always like really, really excited to help, and they really want to see you succeed. And then there's, the accelerators and incubators have a lot of workshops to help you grow as a C-level position. So either that's CEO, CTO, or whatever you're holding. So there's really a lot of help that Switzerland provides, which is really nice. Also for us, the size of the country is really helpful. When you're dealing with a country it takes like 10 hours to fly across. Sometimes getting help from different provinces can be a little bit more difficult, whereas here, it's like a 2.5 hour train ride to Zurich, so you can go and meet investors up there and come back and be home in the same day. I don't know, in terms of extra stuff Switzerland can do, I guess we could push our technology faster and get it into the market faster, but I don't know if that's more of the Swiss side or just us being more aggressive.
Well, we always say the Swiss startups are not aggressive enough. Maybe you have just adapted too quickly, right? Who would like to add to that? You, Carmen, you...
Yeah, well, I totally agree with Samantha. Maybe what I really like from Switzerland is a small country, but it has a lot of influence from other countries. So at the end, you have kind of like a great place to test assumption before expanding to the rest of Europe. So I think in that sense it's also home for great universities, great laboratories and R&D centers. So for us, it's the perfect place to find a partner that can bring our innovation to life. So yeah, I definitely think Switzerland is a great place to start your business.
Good, but what's annoying here?
What's
annoying here?
What's annoying? Well, not really. I don't have any complaint. That goes without complaint, seriously.
Well, as Swiss, thank you. Let's see if anyone has some. Hajar, what are your thoughts?
I also completely agree that this is a great country to found a company and run a startup for sure. A lot of support right from the point when you have the inception of an idea, and you can use different coaching and mentoring services, getting support on the legal aspects, IP strategy, how to found the company. There's a lot of support that you can access for free, which really sort of motivates you to pursue this. So the barriers are quite low in comparison to other countries, and I've really enjoyed that. And the fact that we have such a highly skilled workforce in this country, and we're attracting it from all over the world. We have a very diverse sort of a cultural mix here, which also makes it really an exciting place to work. And I think that is also what has attracted so many big companies to have their headquarters here, have their offices here. And I hope that this continues going forward. And I think competitions like these or events like these, where we really shine the focus on entrepreneurship activities and discuss the good, bad, and the ugly, I think that's really necessary. I feel like the more entrepreneurs get out there, I think it's just going to make it's easier for everyone and just sort of take away any fears or any negative connotations they have about that away. And in terms of what can we do better, I did think of that, and I also don't know if there is much more. I would agree that maybe some of the regulatory process could be shortened, but I guess you would always say that once you're eager that your product gets to the market. But these are also there for a certain reason, for safety standards. So I understand why some of these steps take so long, but that can always be nice if they're shortened a little bit so we can have a better, faster access. And I think we can do a little bit better also by having maybe more funding schemes and maybe giving some subsidies to certain young startups. So especially in the time of COVID, I felt maybe we could have had more access to some sort of safety net. I think most of us were in a good position. We didn't have many employees, but we know that some of them did. And so I think there can be always more improvement to have a more better ecosystem for startups and young companies in general. It just will make it better. Not that I'm complaining, it's great, but it can be better.
Thank you. Lulia, what are your thoughts?
I couldn't agree more with everything said. Switzerland has a very high concentration of top experts, and it's very easy to get a connection or an introduction in any field that you need, and it's very easy to move. You can get a train, be in Bern, talk to a regulatory expert. The next day you can be in Basel to figure out your regulatory strategy. It's really well connected, and it's very easy to talk to people, and people are mostly willing to help. You just have to get the courage and knock on doors, ask your questions, and mostly you get what you want. And again, I would also highlight the fact that there are a lot of support programs for early stage startups, especially if you are based in a university or in a university hospital. There are plenty of opportunities that could be used before going to the fundraising stage.
Is the small size of the home market an issue for you?
Excuse me?
Is the small size of the home market an issue for you? So as Switzerland is very small, you won't sell much here, right? You will have to go abroad very quickly.
Well, it's true that it is a very small market. However, it has its own quality stamp. And since we are based here, it's our home market. So it's very easy for us to start to launch the product here first as a first home market. And then we can explore other European or other US opportunities.
Thank you. So I'd like to use the remainder of our time, so the last 10 minutes or so, to get some practical tips to young, aspiring startup founders out there. I'd like to start with, is there something you wish you had been told before you started? So something that you really want to share to someone who is just about to start a business and you think it's absolutely crucial that they know this.
Well, it's pretty simple, but I think at the beginning what would have been useful also is to have a little bit more of encouragement, because it's true when you have an idea and you start sharing maybe with friends and family, they see it as a risk when you compare it to a fixed job, no? So they might think that you are crazy, and maybe they don't encourage you enough. And I think we were both a bit stubborn, and we really believed in our idea, so we wanted to go through with it, but it was not easy to go against all of these logical thinkers that were telling us that we should maybe forget it. But yeah, signing up for a competition like Venture, getting positive feedback from judges that are not partial, and well, in our case, winning it really makes people change their minds, and this helps you.
You know, I totally agree with Silvia. Another maybe suggestion that I will give to people that is thinking to start this amazing experience is learn from others. I mean, it's really important that you immerse in the ecosystem of startups as soon as possible, because it's where the knowledge is there, and everyone is, as my colleagues already shared, everyone is willing to share with you, and everyone is willing to help you, to support you. So definitely this kind of weeks, entrepreneurship week, is a great opportunity to get to conference, workshops, sign up for competitions, everything. You have to really, really get immersed to understand how it works. At the end, you have to be courage yourself to take the decisions that you want to take, and to pursue your venture. But being surrounded by this ecosystem, it helps you and puts you a path forward to be encouraged and be reassured that you are actually moving in the right direction.
So you're saying you're getting a lot of advice. What do you do with advice you're not sure it's the right thing to do? How do you handle that?
Well, for me, that's the best advice when we get kind of like feedback that is not the one that you want to hear. So it's really when we have learned the most of it, and when we've been challenged a lot. But we learn also to distinguish between negative feedback and constructive criticisms. And I think the later one, constructive criticisms, is actually extremely helpful, and you have to learn how to really understand what is this person is telling me this, and rethink you're not being too much stubborn and trying to open your mind to see maybe they actually have a point. So let's think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep flexible.
Exactly.
Lulia, what are your thoughts?
I think so throughout the process, you will always get harsh feedback, especially in the beginning. And it's there where you have to analyze it and understand if it really fits in your position today, and if you have the chance to dig into it and understand how to actually fix it. Because, for example, as a medtech startup, there are a lot of things to understand, and there are really many challenges to understand in order to make the technology work with with different stakeholders. So, for example, for a medical device, you have to tackle the regulatory challenges. You have to understand how to get the product as fast as you can to the market. And sometimes you get projections that don't make sense at all, because you're just starting and you think that life is easy and you can make it. But of course, feedback can always put you on the right direction, let's say.
Thank you. Let's get even one step more practical. What are the resources you consult? What are the podcasts you listen to? What are the books you read? What's the information you really have to get? Samantha, do you have some advice?
Google's your best friend. I think I don't follow any one particular podcast or book. Actually, my husband and I just listened to a very good one in the car on our trip over the weekend about searching for like meaning in life, and how there is no just one meaning of life. And yeah, I think that you just you have to use everything. Look for like books that maybe aren't even in the right topic, but maybe have a small hint that can throw you into the right direction. Go for coaching, go for accelerators, incubators, talk to people, immerse yourself in the startup, use anybody who's willing to listen as your sounding board for problems. And yeah, just kind of use any resource that you can get your hands on to help you either get that motivation or get over that problem, or to figure out, if there's something difficult that you're stuck on that wall, how to get around it or how to get over it. And I'm sure with the magic of the internet and everything that's on there, it's got to be out there somewhere.
What do you do when things get rough? How do you dig yourself up or out of the hole again?
I think I have a really strong network of family and friends. And our team is really strong as well. So if we face a really particularly bad problem, we'll sit down and we'll talk about it, all three of us. I'll come home and I'll use my husband as a kind of a person who's not even in our field, but just I'll give him the problem and say, like, this is what we're facing. And because maybe I might have blinders on, he might see it from a different way. And then there's some other friends of ours that are in startups or are working for startups. So we also have just, used them as a sounding board and say, we're having this problem. Do you have any advice? And yeah.
Thank you, Samantha. So before I ask Fajer, let me remind you that this is the last opportunity for the audience to enter some questions that we could potentially take up. And with this, Fajer, what are your practical tips?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
In terms of which tools or resources they can use, what I found really useful at the very start was to use a platform which can help me get better organized and have a better project management tool, especially when you work with a very diverse and interdisciplinary team, as we do. And for that, I recommend really investing time to look for the right tool for you, which helps you with the project management. There are many out there. There's Asana, there is ClickUp, plenty of really good ones that can really help you assign tasks to your team members and follow up the progress and not miss deadlines. I think that's very important for your mental peace, that everything is under control and you can track the progress of different activities. What I've also found very useful is to really engage with my team members through internal chat platforms that we have created. For example, the use of Slack or Zoom or Quip is there. Even WhatsApp chat groups we create sometimes to really talk to the team members faster, to get faster feedback. If there's a question, we can answer that much faster and we are better connected. I think that has also helped us to stay on board most of the deadlines that we face sometimes. And at the same time, there are many useful entrepreneurship tools in Switzerland. For example, there are entrepreneurship courses offered by Venture Lab, as well as InnoSwiss, that are very useful, which give you a brief like a whole overview of how to found the company, the legal aspects, help you with the pitch training. I think they're very useful. They're free to take, and I think most young entrepreneurs should take them on, so they have a better idea what they're getting themselves into, how much money they need to save, etc. These are really important parts I think we need to educate people on, so to avoid last-minute stress and confusion. And similarly, for example, InnoSwiss offers this core coaching and initial coaching platforms, which I have personally found very useful to have, where you can use the funds provided by the Swiss government and use them to work with experts in legal matters, in IP-related matters, technical matters, financial modeling matters. So really, you can use people who are the best of the best using these coaching vouchers provided by the Swiss government. So I really encourage people to apply for these platforms. They're free. They really come in handy in a bad day when you don't know how to get out of a hole, like you asked before. Sometimes these experts can really be helpful, and to have access to them at a moment's notice, it's amazing. And last but not least, I also agree, Google is your friend. I think we really have to really look at the problem from an overview. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we look at the problem and the most immediate impact we can solve with our technology, like the benefits we give to our customers. But I think what can also really encourage young entrepreneurs is when they look at the overall impact. So when they step back from their technology and see, with this, I'm not only just helping my customers, I'm also helping the environment, the ecosystems out there. I think that can really propel you to not give up on the bad days as well. So I think use the online tools in your field. There are many
incredible technical reports for environmental agencies, water intelligence platforms out there. Use them and help it sort of fuel the fire in you, I would say. Thank you very much, Fajer. This has been very useful advice. And of course, I would like to second you and encourage all of you to make use of the InnoSwiss coaching program. They run an excellent program there. And of course, I'd also like to encourage you to participate in the venture competition. As I said, you have until the 24th of March to apply. With this, I would like to conclude. Thank you so much to Carmen, Silvia, Lulia, Fajer, and Samantha for participating and for sharing all of your insights. I feel inspired, and I hope you do too. And I very much hope that many in the audience will follow in the footsteps of those amazing female founders. And I hope that we will see many of you as participants in the venture competition in the upcoming year. Again, I'd also like to thank very much the University of Geneva and Connie Muller in particular for having us here, and we hope to be back again soon next year at the Global Entrepreneurship Week. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a good continuation of Global Entrepreneurship Week in the upcoming days. Thank you very much.